So now the talk is that Jalen Brunson is a defensive liability, and the defense is going to become much worse when Brunson gets back, because Jalen Brunson, he's such a liability. And I think that's total nonsense. Jalen Brunson is not a defensive liability. Now, will the defense slide a little bit? Maybe. It could. I mean, I don't know, right? But I do know this, and this is why I stay in research mode. I know this, though. If Jalen Brunson is such a liability on defense, why did the Knicks have a 10th ranked defense last year with JB? Because JB, to my knowledge, and I'm in research mode, JB played 77 games. So if JB played 77 games and this team was a 10th ranked defense, and we know how terrible the defense was pre-OG Anunoby trade. The only reason why the defense got better is because of OG Anunoby. Salute the OG for coming through, changing the narratives of this team. So now Jalen Brunson played 77 games. If he's such a liability and if the defense is bad and the defense can't be good, why was last year's team defensively better? I know what you're going to say. Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Isaiah Hartenstein, that's why. Because you had Hartenstein there and he was just this great center. Okay, fair enough. He is an inside playmaker, but that's why. See, what we're missing in all of this is that, by the way, Karl-Anthony Towns was with the first-ranked defense last year. I know you're going to say, oh, well, there's Rudy Gobert. Don't matter. Like, the point that I'm saying is they're not hindering their teams from being a top-ranked defense. Now, what you're going to see, hopefully, is more Towns and Mitch together. I wouldn't start them together, and I probably wouldn't close them together. But in the middle of the game, you might see a little bit more of Towns and Mitch, because Mitch has had an impact on the defense. Now, here's the thing that I want to say about Mitch, right? So Mitch has the best defensive rating on the team. I'm just going to show you, right? That's why we stay in research mode all the time, every time. Hold on, play-by-play, pure 100, right here, bam. So Mitchell Robinson, 108 defensive rating. Towns, the guy who's the bad defender, has the second best differential on the team at 110. He's played 67 games, and Towns had no protection policy, unlike Jokic. Jokic got a protection policy. Hey, Aaron Gordon, come get this guy. Towns has to guard whoever the 5 is every night, and that's part of the reason why he gets in foul trouble. But Towns' defensive rating, now I'm not saying that he's facing world beaters every night, but it is a 110 all year. Now, recently it hasn't been that good. It's been slipping, but it's still 110. Now, Mitchell Robinson, 108, best defensive rating on the team. We know he gets the toughest assignments. We know he does a lot of the dirty work. So, yeah, Mitch is, he's so much of a factor, right? And here's a point for my Brunson people. How do you know that with Mitchell Robinson back, he's the reason why the defense is better and that the defense will be just as good with Brunson? How do you know that? No, there's no way to know. So stop putting it all on Brunson. Stop saying that Brunson's defense is bad. Let's not even talk about three-point defense, because percentage-wise, yes, pure numbers, three-point defense has been better, right? From a percentage perspective. But mechanically, you still see teams missing open threes. They're missing open threes. So Philly, I don't got the Philly game here, but the Portland game, because I forgot to update. I didn't get a chance to update my notes. I will after this stream. But Portland, 40% from 3. Milwaukee, 36%. That's decent. LA Clippers, 38% from 3. No, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. I'm looking at our shooting. Hold on. You get it? Relax. I'm going to get it right. So Portland has 25%. Okay. Milwaukee, 34%. Clippers shot above 50%, right? Dallas was Dallas. Washington's Washington. Who cares? But Charlotte, 46%. San Antonio, 45%. So before you use the Mitch didn't play one game, they were terrible both games. Miami, 26%. Miami's a failing ship. Golden State was impressive. Golden State, 31%. But the point that I'm saying is that even during this stretch, you still got teams. You had a team shoot 50% from 3. And like I said, a lot of times teams are missing open threes. Why are you putting that on Brunson? You know what else I want to say? Offense, and I'm gonna go in the bigger screen. Offense is your best defense. You know how they say defense is your best offense? Offense is your best defense. What happened tonight? In the first half, Knicks was on fire. By the Knicks being on fire, it limited Cleveland's opportunities, because Cleveland, like OKC, they got to get out in transition. They're a very fast-paced team. We controlled the pace in the first half. Second half came. What happened? Lack of offensive productivity. I think they said, here's my other book. I think I got it off the top of the head. They said that the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second half outscored the Knicks. I think it was 81-47. 81-47. Look, we got the numbers right here. Let me see. They said 81. No, it wasn't just it was a point in time in the game. Either way, they had like 80 to like 40 or 50 points from the Knicks. They ran out of offense. So because you run out of offense, you're not getting stops on the other end. Because now Cleveland Cavaliers get 14 fast break points all in the second half. And you could just go down the list of games. Why did you lose the San Antonio-Charlotte game? 2 bad losses. But within the same stretch, you lose 1, 2, 3 games. So you lose 5 games. 3 of them to above 500 teams. 2 of them to sub 500 teams. And you only beat 2 above 500 teams in Milwaukee and Sacramento. What happens to the offense, right? If Brunson plays these games, more than likely you probably win at least 3 or 4 of them. So, but we want to make Brunson to be the liability and the problem. And that's the problem. And also, too, basketball this is what I'm saying, like, people look at basketball, but they're not looking at it from a global kind of like big picture lens. Like, they're looking at one aspect and they're like, oh man, this is off because of this. But they're not really looking at the landscape of everything. And then you could really see what's going on, right? And I'm saying that to say that basketball is about winning your matchup. And you could do points, rebounds, assists. Jalen Brunson wins his matchup consistently every night. So, like, damn, what team was that? Oh, man, it was a team that we lost to. And I was like, yo, Brunson could have made the difference. Oh, Golden State. Okay, cool. So when we lost to Golden State, right? I was like, yo, if Brunson was there, we would cook them. They said, wait, but what about defense? This was the night that Moses Moody had 18. I said, well, that would have been Brunson's assignment. And if Brunson sets the liability on defense, why did Moses Moody score 18 points? And he had some buckets that hurt us. But when you say a liability on defense, that means that you're costing the team each and every time. Like, you're pretty much just a deficit. You're in a deficit. And yes, we know we could go look at plus minus. I know his on-court, off-court Brunson's is negative. I don't really care to get into such technical stuff because the key thing about it is his plus minus is positive. So we know the Knicks are better with Brunson when he's out there on the floor. He's the closer, right? More offensive stuff. Yeah, I know. You're talking about defense, but I'm talking about offensive stuff. You need another guy that could win his matchup. That's why when I talk about Boston, right, I said, look, in that series, we got the best point guard and the best center. I know the game is not played like that necessarily, but when you look at it from a production, points, rebounds, and assists, if I can get more points, rebounds, and assists from Towns than Boston's starting center, whether it's KP or Horford, that's a win. If I can get more points, rebounds, and assists from Brunson against his matchup, that's a win. Now, everything in the middle, you let them battle it out. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about it from a production standpoint. You could even look at it based on options. Jason Tatum is the first option. Jalen Brown, the second option. Towns and Brunson. What's the difference in production when you look at points, rebounds, and assists? It's very similar. Everything out after that favors the Knicks. Points, rebounds, and assists. That's why I talk about the Josh Hart, Jrue Holiday. Josh Hart is more productive than Jrue Holiday. He's a better defender than Josh Hart. But if I'm talking points, rebounds, and assists and winning matchups and production, Josh Hart has been more productive in that way. But Holiday's a better defender, and overall, career-wise, Holiday's a better player. So I'm taking that away from you guys too. Okay, I'm not saying that Hart is better than Holiday, period. I'm saying production-wise, that's all I'm talking about is production. That's what it's all about. It's not about I need you to shut the other guy down all the time. Memphis fired coach. Okay, what does Memphis guy do in New York? 2 different teams. You want Memphis coach on the Knicks? Why? What did he do? What did Memphis coach? I mean, listen to the logic. Coach Tibbs hasn't done anything. I want to fire him. I'm going to bring in a coach that hasn't done anything. I don't know, guys. That just doesn't make sense to me. That just doesn't make sense to me. Knicks will be chance says Brunson gives the effort on the D. Pause for sure. Defensive ratings are based on whether you get a steal or block. No, I get what you're saying about the defensive rating. Knicks will be champs. It's not. No. Defensive rating is a very, very powerful stat. And you know what? I'll spend some time on that. Hold on. I'm going to give you defensive rating is probably, to me, the player efficiency, defensive rating, those stats to me are probably the best advanced stats that you can look at because it tells you a lot is what's going on. The only thing that it doesn't tell you is matchups. That's the shortcoming of defensive rating. For example, you might notice, right? James Harden might have a really good defensive rating, but you got to understand, he's on a really good defensive team. The Clippers is the number 2 defense in basketball. So everybody's rating is going to be high because the points and that also is a contributor to defensive rating. As I look for, hold on, I'm going to give you the technical definition of it because I looked it up. And because I was the same way, I'm like, defensive rating. No, defensive rating is a real stat. But the shortcoming of defensive rating is that it doesn't account for you. First off, your team could be really great and the matchups. So if you're guarding, I don't know, Joe Blow every other night, of course your defensive rating is going to be high. That's why you don't look at defensive rating with the naked eye and say, oh, this person has a lower defensive rating than that guy, so he's a better defender. Anybody doing that don't know nothing about basketball.